Hey, how you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly back at it again with episode 2 of our newly named series, The Potential Prodigies. Shout out to the Schnoz for coming up with an absolute, god tier name. Appreciate it, brother. There was a lot of great recommendations left in the comment on my previous video. There were so many, wonderful ones I wish I could have chose, but I think the one that fits the series best is The Potential Prodigy. So shout out to the Schnoz, a member of our fam, who left that comment, and I appreciate that, brother. If you don't know what this series is, or if you're new to the channel, hi, I'm Beastly Gaming. I appreciate you taking time out your day to watch my content. But this series is where I basically show you what stats to look for on 4 and 5 star prospects of a specific position group to most of the time get star or elite dev. Obviously, it's not always 100%. I'm going to get that disclaimer out, bright and early in the video. Generally speaking, most of the time, the better players with the higher stats will have the highest dev trait most of the time. There are outliers. There are 3 and 4 star players that have absolutely horrific stats that end up being star or elite. And then there's, amazing 4 and 5 star players that you think to yourself, wow, this person's a guaranteed stud, and then they're impact or normal. Happens, but generally speaking, ballparking at about 80% of the time, you can pretty confidently gauge the dev trait of a, prospect strictly based off their stats. Now, I will show you examples in this video of, players who I think earned their dev trait and players that the game just randomly gave them a dev trait. That way you can kind of see the distinction between the average and then the upper half and the lower half. This episode will be all about CBs, as you guys, I might have mentioned that, but it'll be about corners. And in my opinion, there's 4 archetypes for corners, but only 2 of them matter. Spoiler alert, the best 2 archetypes in the game is bump and run and zone corners. Field is really bad. Actually, not really bad. Field is the worst corner group of them all, and then boundary is a solid third. I'll cover a bit later into the video why boundary and field corners are so bad, especially compared to their brethren being the bump and run, aka the man or the zone corners. But yeah, this will be how you can get players on your roster. My video outline generally to get people like Mitch Duarte, elite dev 5-star junior bump and run with 5 platinum abilities and 99 or 98 pretty much everything: man, press, zone, play rec, speed, hit power, jump, or not really hit power, but jumping, injury, 80 plus hit power, 99 pursuit, crazy corners like this. If you want to know how I got Mitch Duarte, the perks, the build, all that stuff is in my other series, How To Dynasty. I'll have that linked at the very end. I will have the quarterback episode also linked at the very end of this too. So you have both series. So if you want to know what's my coach build, how I upgrade players, how I get players like this, go watch the How To Dynasty series. If you want to know specifically what to look for recruiting, watch this series. And I think with all that yapping aside, let's get into the video. As you guys know, I like to show you examples of before they're recruited and examples after they're recruited, just to give you a nice little back and forth on what you should be looking for versus what you will actually see. So on Sam Tamu, I'm assuming is how you pronunciate this guy's name. He's a 5-star bump and run corner freshman. I do apologize for normally I show these things. I like to show fresh players who have no tokens. That way you can see their raw stats. But unfortunately, I, on average, produce 200 plus tokens a year for my cornerback rooms, meaning I have to burn several hundred tokens just to go year to year, meaning most of the DBs on my roster, even though they haven't played it down, they have tokens spent in them. A great example is this gentleman, Sam Tamu, has points dumped into power. That's the reason why, I haven't touched his man, I haven't touched his zone, haven't touched hands or run stopping. I've literally only dumped them into power because I want his overall to stay low while he sits the bench, but I also need him to have space to collect tokens. So the only stat here that's not 100% original is power, but that's normal. Like the rest of him's normal, or I say normal, but pretty good. As you guys can see, he's a star dev player. But let's look at Sam Tamu's stats. And generally speaking, you're going to notice a trend with a lot of these players, specifically with the zone and man archetypes. They're almost a complete mirror image of each other, just change obviously the man for zone, generally. So for most good man corners, good bump and run corners, whether they're a 4 or a 5-star player, you're looking for high 70s, low 80s man coverage. The best I've ever seen is 81 man coverage, and I'm telling you from a sample size of several hundred corners. I have seen hundreds and hundreds of corners. I think the best I've ever seen organically spawn, I think, was 81, maybe 82, but most of the time your star and elite dev corners, like Sam Tamu, like Mitch Duarte, and like the many others I'm about to show you in this video, generally speaking, most of the time, high 70s, low 80s. So if a corner has that little check mark, that's a really good start. Next is play rec / zone. Play rec and zone is very interesting because I don't believe zone does anything to man-to-man corners. I know when you upgrade the stat, the overall does go up, but that's because you're upgrading play rec, not zone. So I don't think, in my opinion, zone generally matters for man-to-man corners, just like I generally don't think man matters for zone corners. But obviously, the higher the better. Most good man-to-man, whether you're elite or star dev corners, do have either high 60s or low 70s zone. And as you guys can see, like on Sam Tamu, I can upgrade him. Now, will he cap out at 99 zone? Probably not. He'll probably hit like 95, 96. But for a man-to-man corner having 96 zone, that's really good. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, Sam Tamu has 96 speed, which is awesome. 95 acceleration, awesome. 94 agility, which is awesome. And all of those categories are pretty much the upper percentile. So just like how you're looking in the man section for high 70s, low 80s, same thing for press, you want high 70s, low 80s. Those two stats are pretty concrete. Zone, high 60s, low 70s. And for speed, specifically for bump and run corners, it's going to be significantly higher than the rest of the average. So I'll show you examples of what I'm yapping about. But on average, most bump and run 4 and 5 star corners have 92 to 93 speed. Whereas most of the zone 4 and 5 star corners have somewhere between 90 and 91 speed. Obviously, outliers do exist. Obviously, faster players do spawn. And obviously, slower players do spawn. But generally speaking, of all of the archetypes, the bump and run is the fastest. And in my opinion, speed is king. Speed has always been king. As long as EA is making these games, speed will always forever be king. So if I had the choice of a man-to-man corner that gets 90 plus zone, who has 96 speed, versus a zone corner who gets 90 plus man with 91, 92 speed, I'm going to choose the man corner over the zone corner strictly because speed. Now, this gentleman's unfortunately capped, but if he wasn't capped, I could easily get him to 99 speed and acceleration and agility, but his few caps did kind of all roll speed. But he's 96 speed's high enough as a base to not really worry too much. But yes, just like how you're looking for specific stats for these categories, for speed's the same thing. Again, 93, 94 plus speed, 93, 94 plus acceleration, 92, 93 plus agility. If your corner has all of these stats, generally speaking, they're going to be elite or star dev, generally. And if you stick around for a little bit later in this video, towards the end of the bump and run section, I will show you the greatest generational corner I've ever seen. Not clickbait, not, hyperbole. The best corner I've ever seen generally spawn ever. I have played thousands of seasons or hundreds of seasons, and I've recruited thousands of prospects. The best corner I've ever seen. So just tune in to the end of the section. And because I always love to show multiple examples, that way it's just not a one-off thing. I always get funny comments about that. Here's another corner on my, Rice rebuild, very iconic one. Mostly ECU and Rice have made most of these videos, so if you see a lot of these repeat teams, that's why. Dominic Parrish, he's a 4-star bump and run, again, freshman. I know he has 84 tokens. I know I have spent tokens already. I have bought power for him, just like the other gentleman. I need to spend tokens because you can't go higher than 255. So would I like to show you a corner that I've spent no tokens because he has no tokens? Yes, I would. But because my corners are getting literally 200 plus tokens a year, I have to spend what I get. But run stopping is stock, hands is stock, speed is stock, zone coverage is stock, and man-to-man stock. So just like I mentioned earlier for the previous gentleman, let's see if the general idea or the general numbers I gave you apply to this gentleman. High 70/low 80 man coverage, check, he has that. High 70/low 80 press, nope, he's missing that, so there's one miss. Awareness, you're looking for 70 plus, which he has that right there. Change of direction, 89. That's not the best off rip, but it's not like terrible either. For a 4-star, it's pretty, it's decent, but not the best. Zone coverage, high 60s, low 70s, check. Play rec, high 60s, low 70s, check. So far, he's pretty much checked every box but press. 70 press is a bit light, but I can forgive that. Speed, again, he's a bit slow, even though 92 speed's by no means slow, and he could technically upgrade to max, but 92 speed for a bump and run corner is kind of average. So he doesn't have the elite speed, but he does have the elite acceleration at 97, which is just insane. 91, 92 agility, check. So he pretty much has everything, but the press, that's a bit low, but then speed's average, but he has everything else. And then obviously power, I've dumped tokens here, so just ignore that. And there you go. So notice how I gave you two examples from two different corners on two different dynasties. And the stats are very similar because, as you're going to notice, there's always a pattern for these things. It's why I'm able to so accurately predict dev traits for players, because once when you start to see the stats and once when you generally know what to look for, it's not that difficult to spot a good player from a bad player. And I guess while I have my dynasties pulled up, just to show you I'm not just talking out my behind, I'm actually, I'm backing up what I'm saying. I'm going to show you all of my cornerback rooms for Rice, for my ECU, and for my Penn State ones. 2 of those I did live on stream, so if you don't believe me, you want to fact check me, the footage is still on my channel. Here you go. Elite Dev, Star Dev, Elite Dev, Normal, Normal, Elite Dev, Star Dev, Impact, Impact, Impact. Are there more normal and impact players I would generally like in my cornerback room in the Rice rebuild? Yes. But if you guys haven't noticed, freshman, 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 freshman. I have 10 freshmen on my roster. Beastly, why do you have 10 freshmen on your roster? Well, the previous year on my Rice dynasty, I think I had 5 or 6 get drafted. I pretty much lost my entire cornerback room in its entirety. I generally don't like to have more than 3 or 4 players get drafted, and I think last year I had 5 or 6. So last year I was kind of panicking, and I was like, okay, I had everyone drafted. I have to go and replace them, in which I did. And I Elite Dev, Star Dev, Elite Dev. I hit some good ones, right? But, some impacts did squeeze in there and some normal devs did squeeze in there. Those normal devs are either going to get cut from my team going into the next offseason, or they're going to get a dev bump from doing something, being on the field, or if they have really good skill caps, because I earned so many tokens, I can still make them 99, just as a quick example for the video. John Azur, 4-star freshman normal dev. He has really good skill caps. He's an 84 overall, and I'm nowhere close to capping out his zone or man. So even though he's normal, which is bad, because again, I'm getting hundreds and hundreds of tokens a year, I could very, very, very easily make this guy, especially when I upgrade his run stopping and his hands, easily 92, 93 plus, and I'll still get him drafted. Now, will he be a first round pick? Probably not. Maybe a second or a third, but with the build I have, normal devs aren't the end of the world. Do I like them? No. Would I, never want them? Yes, but considering I got 10 corners in one year, I can forgive having a couple impact and a couple normals, but that's for Rice. Let's go to the ECU one real quick. For the Rice one, I have Elite, Star, 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 Impact. So in the other one, I had a couple impact, a couple normal dev. For this one, I have 1 impact and 0 normal dev because I didn't just randomly lose my entire CB room in one draft. So there you go. On this account, on my Penn State one, I have Elite, Impact, Impact, Star, 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 Star. So I have 2 impacts / normals. The rest are Elite or Star Dev. And again, if you don't believe me that I literally get hundreds and hundreds of tokens, my starting corner is an 84 overall. He's only an 84 because I haven't touched his core stats yet. Zaire Church, he's a 5-star zone corner with 200. He's token capped at 255. He has max quickness and max power, which is normally what I do because, again, I don't want you on the field until I need you on the field. This gentleman has 173. This gentleman has 233. This gentleman has 170. I think you can see a point. This guy has 99 because I think I spent some on his already. 91, again, I spent some on his. And then this guy is also token capped at 255. So when I say I have to, burn tokens on someone who's not going to play, generally this is what I do. You're the freshman year. This is an extra video in a video. So slap a like if you enjoy this. Basically, because I don't want Hakeem Engabear, Hakeem over here. I don't want Hakeem on my field, but let's say Hakeem was getting dangerously close to having token cap at 255. All I would do is just max out his speed. I would do this right here. So I just successfully burnt approximately 60 something tokens, and he went up a couple overall. Now, let's say I have more tokens I have to burn. Now I'm going to max upgrade his power, which now he's, he is 0 tokens. But I just spent almost 100 tokens, and his overall moved a couple points. Now, next year, I will upgrade his hands, because hands don't really impact his overall very much either. And then when I choose to start him his junior or senior year, he will have hundreds of tokens. I will just max out man and zone, and that's how I'm pretty able to routinely have 99 everything corners. And I only really ever buy abilities whenever I watch my team play, because abilities don't affect sim. So if, like that one gentleman, Mitch Duarte had 99 everything, and going into his senior year, he had, I think, 130 tokens to burn. So I said, screw it, let's just get a bunch of purple abilities because it makes him look cooler. But yeah, when I say that I have corners with hundreds and hundreds of tokens, I'm not joking. I literally do. So getting a CB on my team that has 0 tokens is very, very, very hard. Just for, again, context. Okay, Beasley, you showed us examples of what they look like after they're on your team. What do they look like when they're on the draft board? Again, as per usual, I will probably mention this 1,000 times throughout the series. I do apologize, but you never know. It's someone's first time watching the video or first time coming across my content, so I gotta always clarify. Yes, I know he has a gem. No, I don't need the game to give me that green gem to tell me what his dev trait is. Let's just run down the list, shall we? 70 plus awareness, check. 93 plus speed, he has 96, check. Considering that other guy also has 96 speed, kind of really leading towards that's kind of crazy. 96 acceleration is insane. Again, upper percentile for that. 93 change of direction, also insane. 94 agility, insane. Pretty much from every single metric, Lamar Kuroma, I think it's Kuroma, Lamar over here. Again, I apologize, I can't read names in this game. For everything on the left side of his attributes is top percentile, like some of the best of the best. Just off the left side alone and not even seeing the green gem, I could tell you this dude was insane. 5-star, 4-star, doesn't matter. This guy's insane. Let's check out the right half or the right column, shall we? 80 or high 70s, low 80 man. He actually has 80. Check. High 60s, low 70s zone. Check. High 70s, low 80, or yeah, high 70s, low 80 man. Check. Even as 70 plus catching, which you'll see how like insane that stat is. Typically catching and tackling for zone corners and man-to-man corners kind of suck. Again, I'll get into the nitty-gritty later into the video with boundary and field corners, but generally speaking, 70 plus catching for zone or man is insanely high, and 60 plus tackling for zone or man archetypes is also insanely high. So pretty much every statistical category this dude has was upper percentile, like across the board. He slaughtered it. So regardless if he was a 5-star or a 4-star, regardless if he had that gem, he was special. Like he's upper level of elite. This guy, it wouldn't shock me if I did recruit this guy that he literally didn't have a skill cap, because those do spawn. I know most 5-stars and 4-stars elite devs typically do have at least 1, sometimes 2 skill caps. But this guy, I wouldn't be shocked if he had 0. This guy is insane, and I'm so glad I found him. Next, to show you what a star corner looks like, and we're going to, do the checklist again, and you guys will see a compare and contrast to the previous ones I mentioned to the ones I'm about to show you. This 5-star bump and run corner who ended up going to Florida. 70 plus awareness. Does he have it? Check. 95 speed, upper percentile speed, check. But notice how it's slower than this guy's. Notice how he has less awareness and less speed than this guy. Right? Sometimes the margin between a star dev player and an elite dev player is not that big. So for all the people who are like, oh, it's just a bunch of 1s and 2s, Beastly, the difference between you getting a generational talent and just a really good player is a difference of 1s and 2s, I promise. The gap is pretty large. 96 plus acceleration, he also had 96, so that's upper percentile there. 93 change of direction, also same for this guy. 94 agility, same for this guy. Pretty much they have the exact same athletic profile except for a couple awareness and 1 speed. So just like the left-hand side for the other prospect, I could tell you just, again, looking at this guy's left column side, he has everything generational. Like, this guy is insane. Check out the right-hand side. He has 76 man. This guy has 80. Unfortunately, you kind of see why this guy is the star dev and not elite like the guy next to him. You would like that to be a bit higher. Right? Is 76 just the worst thing in the world? God, no. You can find far worse man-to-man corners with far worse man. But if that man coverage was, let's say, 78 or 79, he'd probably be an elite dev prospect. Zone coverage, this guy is 68, this guy is 70, so he actually hits that checkbox. Again, high 60s, low 70s. He nails that one too. Press, this guy is 79, this guy is 77. Again, high 70s, low 80s. Check, he hits that box. And now you're about to see the tackling and the catching disparity. This guy was 1 point away from having elite generational catching at 70 plus, like this gentleman does, but he has 69, which is still pretty good. But again, you're seeing the 1s and 2s here. This prospect has 59 tackle. This guy is 60 plus. Again, showing you the gap that the margin of error between Thad Tompkins and Lamar Kuroma is not very big. And I think for most people, if you had either of these guys on your team, whether it's an online or offline dynasty, you would be very happy. But again, that's the difference we're talking here. You like the gap between these two is a couple points here and a couple points there. But on the field, this guy's going to hit a 99 overall probably his freshman year. This guy's probably not going to hit a 99 till his sophomore or junior year. So depending on, where you're at in your rebuild, what you're looking for, that may or may not be relevant. Also, skill caps do factor, but that's just how the cookie crumbles, sadly. So I just showed you what an elite dev looks like, what a star dev traditionally looks like. Now I'm going to show you generally what an impact looks like. That way you don't get the group confused. Under, what is your name? Tevita? Tev. We're going to call you Tev for short because I can't read. Tev, the CB that went to Oregon, the 4-star bump and run, has 70 plus awareness barely. Like he literally bare min that at 70 plus. Next, speed 92 to 93. Again, bare min. Like that is you're hitting the average, like the bare min for 2 of these in a row. 92 acceleration, again, is not terrible, but you would like that to be higher, 94, 95, 96, but 92 is not bad. Change direction, 92, that's also not very bad. 90 agility, again, is not very bad, but if you're noticing a trend here, the gap between this impact dev and the star dev and the elite dev is you went from having generational / upper percentile stats to like, they're okay. Like, they're not bad. Obviously, he doesn't have like 80 something speed or like 80 something acceleration. That's horrible, but he's just kind of nothing special, which generally speaking, that's like what most impact dev players are. They're just not special. Like they're decent. They're better than the average, but they're not like, again, special. Right hand side, 74 man. Ew. You're looking for, again, high 70s, low 80s. He doesn't even meet that threshold. High 60s / low 70s zone. He does meet that threshold, though. 76 press, he does meet that one again. You want high 70s, low 80s, which he does have that. And then let's look at catching of a 65. You would like that to be, again, around 70. So he is decent catching, but nothing special. And then tackling, again, you would like that to be around 60. He has 55. So pretty much across the board, the gap between this impact dev corner and the star and the elite before him is just his stats were just a little worse / very worse across several sections. Then my final example, and I understand there's a red gem. Red gem means bad, I know. However, you guys, I can officially say I have found my first ever red gem or bust player who was star dev. Prior to this point, I've only ever heard of them, and I've seen screenshots on my Discord and Twitter. But finally, doing my 2-star only rebuild, I found a busted gem that was star dev. So I can officially say they do exist. But you're talking, I've, again, recruited probably thousands of players and done hundreds of seasons. It's my first one. So am I going to say, you should keep the busts on your board? No. Generally speaking, most of the time they are normal / impact dev, so just remove them. But I get it. He's a red gem. He's a bust. Don't recruit him, basically. But again, without I don't need the red gem or the green gem. I could tell you generally what this guy is. Let's go over his profile. Does he have 70 plus awareness? No. He has 69, funny number. But no, he doesn't meet the awareness check. First big problem. Next, 92 speed. Again, 92, 91, 93, low 90s, pretty normal. Nothing special, just normal. So it's not very impressive. 94 acceleration, I will admit, is pretty good, right? That is up there with the elites and the stars, but not like terrible. So acceleration's pretty good. Under 90 change of directions, pretty bad. 90 agility is not the best. Again, you're looking for mid 90s. So he's kind of failing with speed, with change of direction, awareness, and agility. Those all need to be much higher. But hey, that's just the left side. Let's go to the right hand side, basically. 71 man coverage. He's a man corner that can barely play man better than his zone. Awful. Awful, awful, awful. Zone, high 60s, low 70s. He actually does hit that checkbox, but who really cares that he hits that checkbox when he can't play man? He's a man-to-man corner that can't play man. This is atrocious. High 70s / low 80s press. Nope, he is 73. So this guy is pretty much across the board failing at every single category. You're looking for generally 70 plus catching. His is pretty good at 68. I'll give him that. That's pretty solid. But again, it's not 70 plus. And just like the other example, you're looking for 60 plus tackling. He has 59, so he fails there too. So he pretty much fails everything. So whether or not the game did give me the gem, I would have known this guy is normal to impact, and I would have been right because he's very not remarkable. So I've shown you examples of elite dev, star dev, impact dev, and normal dev. And again, generally speaking, the stats you're looking for 70 plus awareness, not for generational / elite / star dev speed. You're looking for that 94 plus speed, 95, 96, generally that ballpark. Again, you can find it with 93 as well, but most of the time, faster equal better. Same thing with acceleration, mid to high 90s. Change of direction, mid to low 90s. You're looking your 93s, your 94s, your 95, somewhere around there. Agility, same thing, 93, 94, 95, low to mid 90s. Man coverage, high 70s, low 80s, generally speaking. Zone coverage, high 60s, low 70s, generally speaking. Press, high 70s, low 80s. Catching 70 plus for, the generational, the elite, the stars. 65 plus for the impact to normal. But yeah, 70 plus for catching, and tackling 60 plus for the generational, the elite, or the star devs, but below 60 is pretty normal for this the impact or star dev. So if your prospect has all of those requirements, there's a really good shot this guy is elite or star or generational. So keep that in mind. As I promised, I was going to show you the greatest corner I've ever seen. This dude easily takes the cake as the single greatest thing I've ever seen in my Vanderbilt rebuild that I'm doing with every coach build, which I guess I can just go ahead and show you real quickly while I'm yapping. But yeah, on this Vandy account, I did the Candyman challenge. Shout out my chat. But more or less, I wanted to have a perk in every single category, which, trust me, this took like 25 hours to do. No, I'm not max level. I think I'm level 85 or 84, so I still have plenty of room to go. But your eyes do not deceive you. I literally have a perk in every single category. This was so daunting to do. No, I don't recommend you do this because Architect is such a bad perk. And same thing with Strategist. You are far better just getting Elite Recruiter maxed out, Talent Developer maxed out, and Master Motivator and just dunking the points. But, and doesn't make the video look so as nice saying, oh, I have every perk in the game. This was done legit, all done on stream. It was annoying, but yeah, this is on the same account. But back to Isaiah Rowe. Let's go down to run box really quickly, but this is easily the best corner I've ever seen, and when he eventually does get on my roster, I would not be shocked if he's an 82 or 83 overall off rip. 70 plus awareness, check. Obviously 99 speed, physically can't get any faster, check. 95 acceleration, check. 92 change of direction, check. 94 agility, check. High 70s, low 80s man, check. High 60, low 70 zone, check. High 70s, low 80 press, check. He's unfortunately missing the catching and the tackle check, but I can forgive him not hitting the catching or tackling check when he has 99 speed. So this guy's insane. I cannot wait to use him in this rebuild, and I think he's a great time to implement our comment question of the day / our comment emoji. What do you guys think is the best corner archetype / abilities in the game? Let me know down below, because in my opinion, it goes as follows: bump and run, then zone, then boundary, then field as the best archetypes, mostly because of the abilities and the stats. But that's my order. Let me know your order down below. And if you're this far into the video, the comment emoji you will leave with it will be... Let's do a crown emoji, since this is easily the king of all kings, the greatest corner I've ever recruited. Shout out to you guys. If you guys leave a little king emoji in your comment, I will know you made it this far into the video. And all that being done, we've now officially done the chapter on bump and run. Let's go and show you some zone corners, shall we? Now, for zone corners, they're pretty much identical to man-to-man corners with two very, very, very distinct differences. One is the average athleticism, and two is obviously they don't have as good man coverage as the man corners. But generally, everything else is pretty much the same, right? The catching thresholds you're looking for, the tackling thresholds you're looking for, the awareness, the play rec, all of that is kind of the same. The only major difference between zone corners is on average, their press rating is lower, which is weird that EA associates press to a man archetype, because you could have zone corners that press, like most Tampa 2 corners do that, but I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty, just an observation I've made there. And the next one is speed, right? An average speed for a bump and run corner is 92 to 93, whereas an elite or generational speed zone corner is, again, about 92, 93. So the average speed for bump and runs is the top end for zone. But in terms of the acceleration, the agility, all that's pretty much the same. There's a lot of overlap, so we're going to speed through this section a lot quicker because, again, it's pretty similar. So there's no need to yap. But here's a 5-star Kevin Allen, who's a zone corner. And just like I said before, you're looking for high 70s, low 80s man. Well, now you're flipping that high 70s, low 80s zone. He hits 80 zone by himself, which is pretty sick. Just like how for the man corners, you're looking for high 60s / low 70s zone. For the man, or for the zone corner, excuse me, you're looking for high 60s / low 70 man. He has that. For press, you were looking for high 70s slash low 80s for man. And for this one, you're looking for, again, high 70s slash mid 70s. I don't think I've ever seen a zone corner spawn with 80 plus press. Not saying it can't happen, but I have not seen one in my many attempts. So again, the press is about 3 to 4 less. So instead of being high, 70s, low 80s, it's just high 70s, mid 70s. So around that ballpark. And again, we've mentioned speed. Acceleration, again, 93 plus. Agility, 91 plus, just like speed, 91 plus. It's a little slower, but generally about the same. Insert joke about someone or about a corner going to Georgia who's from the South, go figure. But here is going to be some really good zone corners to show you what they look like before they acquire on your team. We'll go through the stat check hole so you guys can see, because again, a lot of them are generally the same. There are some, small tweaks, but they're very similar. 70 plus awareness, check, he hits 75, which is insane. 92 to 93 speed, check, he's 96, he's insane. 93, 92 plus acceleration, check, he is 94. Again, 92, 93 plus change of direction, check. 90 plus agility, check. Literally without the gem, just going off strictly the left side of the attributes, dude hits, out the ballpark with almost everything. Dude is just off athleticism alone, insane. Then we'll look at zone coverage, high 70, low 80s, check, he hits that. Now here's the crazy thing. This dude has 74 man coverage, and because he's elite dev, I don't think he has any skill caps in man coverage. So this dude could probably be turned into a really sick man-to-man corner, minus the abilities, of course, but he overwhelmingly destroys the high 60s slash low 70s man coverage. He might be the upper percentile in that I've ever seen at 74, which is nuts. Press, again, you're looking for mid to high 70s. His is a bit low at 71, but I can kind of forgive the little, the a bit low press, considering he is significantly above average in pretty much everything else. So I can overlook that. Catching, he is just a smidge under 70. He's like right there on the line. But again, I can overlook that considering he's so far above everything else. 2 catching and a couple press is not the end of the world. And then again, the 70 plus tackle check, he hits 70 plus tackle. So aside from the press and the catching, he pretty much destroys every single metric, the average wise anyways, and is in the upper percentile for most things. So regardless if there was no gem, regardless if he was a 4-star or a 5-star, if I saw these stats with very little scouting, I would say there is something special here. And to the surprise of no one, he's from the South. So then Kirby Smart got him. So insert joke there. Now, as pretty as that corner was that we just looked at, that zone corner, which was obviously just, he's a unicorn. Don't expect to find players like that in every single recruiting class. That guy is probably a once in a generation or a once in a decade spawn. He's insane. This gentleman, Dave Holiday, great name, is expect far more similar numbers to this, whether they're a 4 or 5-star. It's very similar, but let's just run down the check, shall we? 70 plus awareness, check. 90 speed, again, compared to bump and run corners, is very slow. But considering, again, most zone corners are like low 90s, 91, 92, somewhere around that ballpark, 90 is still a bit slow, but not like, ooh, that's way too slow, Beastly. It's he's teetering that line, but again, he's not past the point of like, Low 90s acceleration, he is 92, check. High 80s change of direction is not very good. That you would like that to be higher. High 80s slash low 90s agility, you would like that to be a smidge higher, but again, nothing, out of the realm. So his left-hand side is not the best I've ever seen, but by no means is he a bum, which is kind of, very reminiscent of the star dev rating. Man coverage, high 60s, low 70s, check. Zone coverage, high 70s slash low 80s, check. Press of a 68, that's actually below average. He's below average on several categories, which is interesting. Catching of a 65. Again, you would like 70 plus, but 65 is not bad. Tackling, again, you would like 70 plus, but again, it's not bad. So you're like high 60s if you're not getting the elite dev prospects, so you're looking for star dev players. High 60s for both of those will do just fine. But again, if you're looking for the elites, if you're looking for the amazing ones, 70s, you're both shot. But if not, high 60s, low 70s pretty much works the same way. The next gentleman we're going to go over is an impact dev corner. And notice, again, compared to the star dev before him, he's a little faster at 91 speed. But again, with the speed for these 4 and 5-star zone corners, most of the time, You're not going to be getting no crazy 96 or 97 or 99 speed corners. Most of the time, you're going to be getting low 90s. So 91 fits the mold, check. Awareness, check. Acceleration, low 90s, check. Just like the previous gentleman, high 80s / low 90s for change of direction / agility, check, check. High 60s, low 70 man coverage, check. High 70s, low 80 man coverage, check. Press, 60s, missing that. Catching, sub 65, which is kind of if you're curious why this dude is impact dev and the other gentleman is star dev, he's significantly below average for the catching at sub 65, and I would again recommend never going below 65. So he's sub 65. However, he's also slightly above average when tackling. So this guy's not bad. If I had to like kind of put this on like a spectrum, because there's not all impact dev players, star dev players, or elite dev players, they're not all the same. There's kind of like a spectrum. I would say on the far right side of the spectrum, it's like your generational, your 99 speed man coverage or that 96 speed zone coverage guy as just the easy examples. And then you have the elite players, but even then on that spectrum between elite and generational, there's still like a wide range. I would say this impact is probably the upper percentile of impact. So he's pretty much just a couple catching away or a couple change of direction away from being star. And that other star dev prospect I showed you, he's probably on the lower side of star, right? Not all star players are the same. Not all impact dev players are the same. But generally speaking, this impact is really good for an impact. And that star player is kind of bad for a star player. Now, unfortunately, I went through so many recruiting classes and so many files and so many players that finding a file with like everything perfectly done, unfortunately, didn't come out. I would have preferred to find a better star dev zone corner and a worse impact dev corner, but that's just how life works, right? Nothing's perfect. Nothing, not everything fits well together. But yeah, this guy is probably the upper percentile of impact and that other guy is lower percentile of star. But again, notice how they have a similar archetype and they have similar stats within 1 to 2 points of each other. Some better, some worse, generally speaking. And for the last example of a zone normal dev or a bad corner, here's Austin Pfeiffer. Again, red gem, don't care. Look at his stats. He does meet the awareness check, but he's significantly below average. Again, you're looking for a 90, 91, 92 speed. He's 89. That's below average. Acceleration's not bad at 93. But again, change of direction, high 80s, low 90s. He does fit those as well. To be fair, he does, but you would like that to be higher for the better ones. Man coverage of a 66. That's like barely pushing high 60s. Like he is legitimately one man coverage away from not qualifying for high 60s / low 70s for man. So he's bare minning the man coverage. For zone, high 70s, low 80s check. For press, mid to high 70s. He's not hitting that like at all. He's well short. And then for catching, sub 65, he's missing points there. And then for tackling, he is sub 70, so he's missing points there. So notice how the gap between this impact dev and the normal dev isn't really that big. They're missing a couple stats here and there, but the gap between the elite dev and everyone else was massive. That's just kind of how sometimes these things work out. Sometimes you'll have a crater, a nuke size gap between player A and player B, and sometimes it's a very minuscule gap, but generally speaking, if you know what to look for, you can very easily spot the unicorns, if you will. In fact, just to give you an idea of what a not unicorn elite dev looks like for zone, whether it's a 4 or 5 star, this is probably Colt McAfee is probably the best example I can give you. He's still really, really, really good, and he still earned his elite category. But I think I kind of spoiled you guys for the first prospect I gave you because that dude was so above average, like so beyond the statistical norm that it kind of skewed everything else. With Colt McAfee, again, 70 plus awareness check, 93 plus speed check. So he's not like those normal guys who are 90, 91, 92. He is 93, which again is bare min for bump and runs, but for zone, it's crazy fast. Again, 93 acceleration is not bad. High 80s, low 90s, change of direction and agility, check, check. 70 man, which is really good, right? That's no slouch. High 60s, low 70s. He hits the low 70s, check. High 70s, low 80s. For zone, check. High, or mid to high 70s. Doesn't really hit that one, but at least it's 70 plus, unlike everyone else I've showed you, which is like in the 60s, 68, 66, somewhere around there. So he does, hit that check. 65 catching, not 70 plus, but still 65 is not bad. And then not 70 tackling, but he's at 68. So he's just a couple points here and there away from being, you know, a unicorn level threat. But this is probably like a pretty normal high dev zone corner I could have showed you. And in hindsight, I should have probably picked this guy, but I have probably 5 or 10 classes saved of 35 players each. I have literally hundreds of corners I am filtering through just to show you just this video. My bad for choosing the wrong ones, but there you go. If I had to pick a better example for an elite or stud zone corner, this guy would be more fit the mold. That other guy was just so generational that he's far above everything else. Expecting to find players like that first gentleman I showed you is very not normal. This is probably a more average elite dev, or what you would probably expect to find most of the time. So now we've entered the part of the video that I'm probably going to get the most flack for. Why, Beastly, do you despise boundary corners and field corners so much more than the zone and man? Well, I'm going to briefly save the rant. Last time I did this rant for the previous time I tried to record this video, the video ended up being 2 hours. I don't want the video to be that long. So very quickly, Jammer, amazing ability. Blanket coverage, amazing ability. If you're going to play man press, just use a press corner, like man corner. It's great abilities, but you can find them on other corners, so you don't need them on this guy. Next, layout, improved dive catches, or acrobat as it is in Madden. This is a god tier ability, but like, how often are you going to utilize it? From my experience playing online games or against the computer either perfectly throws the ball every time and this never triggers, or in online games, they freeform and it's out of your reach anyway. So it's an amazing ability, but it doesn't get utilized as much as you think it does. Plus, the requirements to get it is incredibly high catching that most players won't even get. Like, I'm pretty sure I could dump all 64 of my, or 67 upgrade tokens on Dalton Irving here, and he still wouldn't get it. So just way too many, you know, situations in which you don't even get it and or it doesn't work. So it's just not once what it, you know, used to be. Wrap up is super redundant. Most of the time, corners are undersized and or underweight versus receivers, running backs, and tight ends, meaning you should never be trying to wrap them up with conservative tackles. You should always be cut sticking, because a cut stick is guaranteed. A cut stick ignores height, it ignores weight, it ignores everything. So wrap up is a redundant for linebackers, great ability, but for corners and safeties, not really a point. You should be cut sticking if they're really small, and if they're really big, you should be hit sticking. Conservative tackling really makes no sense. And then lastly, quick jump. Again, what is the point of this? I get it if you're doing like cornerback blitzes or like DB blitzes and you know stuff like that, but why? Right? If you have a very fast corner anyways, who cares? So you have several redundant abilities that just don't fundamentally make sense. And the other issue I have with this archetype is the stat spread. I will cover what they did, which I think is super wrong, and how I would correct this if I was EA Sports. But as I know, I'm going to, flack in the comments, Beastly, every corner you showed in this video, you've already upgraded. I know, I apologize. And the quarterback video was very easy because I would have 4 or 5 quarterbacks on my roster and only one would play, so then one would get upgrades. I can't do that with corners because I'm producing just so many points. This gentleman, I've already speed capped. He did not spawn this way. As you will see, I think the average speed threshold for boundary corners is around the same speed as zone, which is like around 90, 91. Very rarely will you see 92 plus, but around 90, 91, which is probably what this guy had. He is star dev, so he's really good. But still, the main thing they did for this archetype is they, on average, boundary corners have worse zone coverage than zone corners and worse man coverage than man corners, on average. Which is annoying because, as I've shown you previously, if you get an elite or generational man-to-man or zone corner, they typically don't have caps in the other stat. So it's not that difficult to get a man-to-man corner 99 zone, and it's not that difficult to get a zone corner with 99 man. So the idea, the concept for the boundary corner is that they can do both. But realistically speaking, so can the other ones, which makes them really redundant. The other funny thing they did is, on average, the tackling and the catching for these guys are higher than the other two. So whereas 70 plus is really, really, really good for zone and man, most boundary corners stock have 70 plus. So I just personally, in my opinion, the abilities don't really make too big of a difference in playstyle. And it's just, to me, they should do better, right? Boundary corners are supposed to be the jack of all trade, master of none, where in my opinion, they should have worse man covers than man-to-man corners, and they should have worse zone coverage than zone corners, but they should on average have higher stats in the opposite category than those other two previous. Again, they're not the worst. Field corners, the worst archetype in my opinion, but they're not much better than field. So there you go. That's the main differences, the main subtleties. And I'm not even exaggerating. I'm pretty sure this is the only boundary corner I have on my roster of any, thing I've shown that's not normal or impact dev. I don't really recruit them because the other Achilles heel or the other crux of these guys is their spawn rate. Their spawn rate is so bad. Like, little TLDR, a little rant here. But for the quarterback video, on average, I was getting about 35 QBs a cycle, 4 and 5 star across all the archetypes. On average for this video, each cycle, I was getting about 70 corners. I was scouting about 70 corners, which, as you know, your board can only possess 35. So I'd have to take people off my board, go find them, jot down their stats, and jot down their dev traits, which is what made this video take an extra week or two that, I wish I would have got it out sooner. So there is on average twice as many corners that are spawning per cycle as there are quarterbacks, which again makes kind of sense because you do play more corners on your field than QBs. But still, you would think, well, Beastly, if there's 70, corners that are generating, you should get a lot of each. No. 60% of the corners that spawn are either man-to-man corners or zone corners, which I guess makes sense because those are the easiest archetypes to have in real life. But what it led to is getting data for the field corner and getting data for the boundary corner very hard. When I was only getting 6 or 7 to spawn per cycle, I would have to churn through so many cycles just to get enough data to even have points to present. So the abilities suck, the stats suck, their logic sucks, and their spawn rates butt. Now, does that mean they only have low spawn rates? No, I had one cycle where I think I had 17 or 18 spawn, but that was the outlier of all outliers. Most of my cycles had somewhere between 6 and 12 spawning, which is very difficult to get enough data off just a sample size of a dozen ifs or that. So don't like them. Please buff them, EA, or at least change the other corners to where these corners make sense. But yapping aside, let me just show you what some look like before they get on your team. So just to give you guys a ballpark of what I'm referring to, how little they spawn, I have, and this is one of the save files where I didn't get a full roster of 35. It was just a really just poor gen season or poor gen cycle. Look at the boundary corners we have. Just for a quick moment, look at the boundary corners. Again, this is every single corner I could physically fit on my roster, or on my board, right? I have 3 maxed out strategists, so everyone's thing was I think a D+, so it wasn't because I got locked out of deal breakers. They just didn't spawn, right? Starting with Bo Candidate, he's my first boundary 4-star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7 4/5-star boundary corners that spawned in this cycle. 7. Which again, EA, why are you generating 20 or 30 bump and runs or 20 and 30 zones, but single digits in boundary and field? Can we work on the AI logic for spawning, please? Same thing with strong safeties. Why is there 3 strong? I despise the strong safety video I'm going to have to make because legitimately there's 5 or 6 strong safety 4 and 5 stars that spawn a cycle. That is just horrific. It's so hard to get data points on positions where they just don't spawn, right? Even this batch I have, I don't know what this guy is. He's probably at least star dev. I would presume he's star or elite, but unfortunately no one recruited him. I got locked out, and LSU also everyone got locked out. LSU, USC, and Oklahoma got locked out, so no one's recruiting this guy. I would love to see his dev trait. I'm going to ballpark it and say it's either elite or star, considering I know the averages, but I can't, include him because I can't technically see it. Of all the corners we had spawn, of all 7 of them, there were impact, normal, don't know, normal, impact, star. Not just do they so infrequently spawn, but when they do spawn, most of them suck. It made this video so annoying. Yapping aside, let's get back to the video. So of the bunch of boundary corners I have scouted, Frank McLeod is probably one of, the most corners there is. He's elite dev. He's one of the very few not normal / not impact dev boundaries I found. But by no means is he special. As you'll see, the next corner I'm going to show you, the star dev one, there's not that big of a difference. So just like the zone corner as an example, there's elites, there's like good elites, and there's like so-so elites. This one I would say is a so-so elite, but I literally can't get them to spawn at like a high enough frequency to find the good ones. So unfortunately, this is the best you're going to get, because you'll notice some overlay with stats, but because they're very similar. 70 plus awareness is what you're looking for. He doesn't hit that at 69. Boundary corners have the same speed archetype, if you will, as zone, because basically boundary corners are just a hybrid of zone and man. So they have the speed of the zone, which is, low to mid 90s, 91, 90, 92, somewhere in that ballpark. He hits 91. Acceleration, same thing, low to mid 90s, 93. Ballparking it makes sense. 91 change of direction, north of 90 change of direction. That's more of a man stat right there, right? As you guys can see, there will be some overlap between boundary with zone and mans, which is kind of what they are. So you have the speed and acceleration of the zone corners with the change of direction of a man corner, with the agility of a zone corner, high 80s, low 90s. And then you get to the coverage stats, and the coverage stats are exactly what you would think they would be, since they are a hybrid of both of them. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but a vast majority of the time for boundary cornerbacks, you'll have low 70s, right? You'll get like 74, 74, 71, 75. You'll have low to mid 70s most of the time. So if you're trying to ballpark it, whether they're really good, if it's north of, I would probably guess 70, you're pretty good. You're pretty solid. If you're in the 60s of either man or zone, you're probably not very good. Press is, again, going to be very similar to man coverage. You are looking for high 70s / low 80s. He has 75, so he like bare mins that. And then catching and tackling, just like the other two, these stats are kind of inflated. So for many other archetypes, you're looking for 65 plus. These guys, you're looking for 70 plus. He's, missing it by 1 point. So even though he's not a very impressive elite dev, he does technically apply as the elite dev. I would presume he's more, in my opinion, similar to a star dev corner than elite dev, but that is the dev trait. Next, an example of a star dev corner that's also boundary. Now, mind you, I think this star corner is like really good. For the record, I think this star corner is closer to being elite than the elite corner I just showed you, but that's kind of how the RNG works. 70 plus awareness, he misses it by 1 point, but it's just 1 point, whatever. 92 speed, upper percentile, very good. 93 acceleration, identical to the guy above him at 93, very good. They both also have 87 change of direction, which again, you're looking for high 80s / low 90s change of direction, or excuse me, agility. Change of direction 91, 89, again, high 80s, low 90s for that. Does still apply. 75 man covers, 72 zone. He actually can cover better than the elite one, which is interesting. But you'll see, even though he can cover better than the elite one, the other one does have differences. But again, you're looking for low to mid 70s for that. So that's still both checks for those boxes. Press, mid to high 70s, checks, hits that box too. Catching and tackling, both 70 plus, check. So this corner, I would probably, ballpark it as far closer to being elite than being star, but he's still pretty good. Both of these corners are still pretty good. It's just their archetype kind of sucks. So they're the shiniest of the turds of the bunch, which is just not something to be proud of, but hey, they're in the game, so that's cool. And here's an example of what an impact dev looks like if all these numbers are starting to sound very familiar, because they kind of are. Boundary corners, whether they're impact, whether they're star, whether they're elite, they all are kind of the same statistically, and that's mostly due to their archetype. So there you go. Again, not saying unicorns and outliers don't exist, but they're just not that good. 70 plus awareness, check. He low rolls the speed at 90. You would like that to be higher, but 90, at least it's not in the 80s. There's some positive. I can spin that. Again, low to mid 90s for acceleration, check. High 80s, low 90s for change of direction, check. High 80s to low 90s agility, check. Low 70s in zone man, check. Press, low. I would, you would prefer to see that a bit higher, but I guess that makes sense. He's an impact dev, so you're not going to see the 76 or the 78. You're going to see the more like 72, 73, 74, low 70s. And then catching, tackling, sub 70 both ways, missing the tackling, missing the catching, missing the press, bare minning the speed, just all around the board. This guy's lacking a lot, and I guess that makes sense. He's impact dev, so you would assume the guy who's lacking some isn't going to be crazy. But yeah, just as a whole, I don't like the boundary archetype. I wish they spawned higher. I wish their stats were better. And personally, to me, again, I understand they're supposed to be the universal Swiss Army knife, right? They're not slow. They're not as slow as the field corners, but they're not as fast as the bump and runs. They're not as good at zone as the zone corners. They're not as good as man at the man corners, but they're kind of okay at everything. Just personally, in my opinion, the cornerback archetype is very important, and I would much if I'm going to play man, I would much prefer the guy who I get to play man to be very good at man. If I'm going to play zone, I want the corner that I know I'm going to have on the field good at zone. And the other issue is most of the time when you get these star and the generational and the elite zone and man corners, they can also play the opposite. I have very rarely ever found a man corner that was, very good that couldn't play zone, and I very rarely ever found a zone corner that couldn't play man. So EA, I wish you could kind of fix stats. Like example, I feel like how I would balance it in my own opinion is I feel like the highest zone coverage a man corner should ever get should be like 88, right? Where it's still decent, but not in the elite category. And the same thing with zone. I feel like the highest man coverage a zone corner should ever achieve is also 88. And then you would have these boundary corners actually make sense because they can go above that threshold of 88 to like 90 plus. But the caveat would be they're rare. So would you rather have the thing that's far frequently spawning in the zone and man and have your special, your specialist, or would you rather have someone like the boundary who's the jack of all, where they're not very elite at anything, but they can go higher over longer? Just some simple food for thought. Don't really like the archetypes. However, the one benefit though, since their stats are pretty homogenized across the board, that does make finding the generational ones when they do spawn pretty easy. Because for some reason, if you find a 95 speed boundary corner, that's pretty high, like significantly higher than everybody else. So that is the one benefit, I guess, to the field and the boundary archetypes, is that since they generally do suck across the board, finding the ones that don't suck makes it easier because they are so above average that you got to work hard to not see it, if that makes sense. I'm probably going to get the obligatory comment in this video saying, well, Beastly, the point of the boundary corner is not just their stats. It's supposed to be height. Boundary corners are on average taller than the others. That's just not true. I mean, I guess that's a lot. I guess technically they are taller, but height is randomized just like archetypes, just like dev traits, just like stats. Like height is random. So are you going to find like a 5'8" boundary corner? No. Are you going to find like a 5'8" man corner? Probably. But it's not always a surefire thing to just boundary equal tall, because here's two examples I can give you of just the same class I've already had pulled up. Paul Quessenberry, he's 5'11", he's boundary. 5'11" is very short compared to the other ones I was just showing you who are like 6'2", 6'3", high 6, or good bit over 6 foot. And again, you can look at these stats too. Just they're all kind of the same, whether they're elite, whether they're impact, whether they're star. Again, they're very homogenized because they're supposed to be. That's like the archetype. But yeah, he's 5'11". And then Vernon Duke over here, he's also 5'11". So I can assure you that yes, on average, are there more players over 6 foot than under 6 foot for boundary corners? Yeah. But you can still find short boundary corners, just like how you can still find tall man-to-man corners. I wouldn't personally sacrifice abilities and stats for an inch or two, personally. If I have an elite man-to-man corner who's 6 foot, I don't care. If he's an elite man-to-man corner with good abilities and he's 6 foot, I don't care if there's a boundary corner with terrible abilities who's like 6'3". I don't care. Like, to me, height doesn't make that big of a difference, especially if you watch my live streams. There was a funny season I had during the Rice rebuild where I lost because a 5'5" white receiver teabagged my 6'1" or 6'2" 99 everything corner. This game is predicated off animations. Animations trigger by stats. Stats don't care about height. So if you're ever curious why there's like a 5'5" receiver popping off and your 6'5" receiver's not, height really doesn't impact anywhere near as much as people think it does, especially when it comes to receivers and corners interactions. Yes, obviously you would think taller is better, but it's really not, right? If you have a 5'5" guy with crazy stats and abilities, that 5'5" guy will dunk on the 6'4" guy most of the time. Now it's time for the dreaded field corner. This is the worst cornerback archetype in my opinion. The abilities, if you like these abilities, you can find them on several other archetypes. Just in general, I don't like these guys. Their stats stink. You'll see. It's just, I don't like them. They're the worst in the game. I have one field corner, one singular field corner across 4 different dynasties. My ECU, my Rice, my Vanderbilt, and my Penn State. I have a singular one. Spoiler alert. Just like how the boundary corners are really rare, so are field corners. Which that just adds to the list of reasons why they suck. They're rare and they suck. Double negative. But here I have an Impact Dev one, which normally I show you what Elite or Star Dev ones look like. I couldn't get one. So just, I'm sorry. They suck. Don't hate me in the comments. But let's go look at their stats. 91 speed. As you'll see, the reason why this guy ended up getting on my team as an Impact Dev corner was because 91 speed, which is pretty average for zone, it's pretty average for boundary, and it's pretty slow for man. 91 speed for this archetype is generational. That's how bad they are. And there was this misconception in the comments of my last stream when I was yapping about this, that someone said that Beastly, they have really bad initial stats, but they upgrade really easy. They have the same upgrades as everybody else. I don't know where that narrative, what YouTuber spun that nonsense, but no, like they have the same upgrade tokens for zone and man as everyone else does. It's not like it's 1 or 2, or it's the same price, and same thing with speed. To upgrade his speed to 91 to probably 92 is 14 points. So I don't know who started this narrative, this misconception. Well, field corners are bad off the rip, but you can upgrade them easier. No. And as someone who can, again, I only have one to show you across all of my dynasties, there's not much to work with here. This gentleman, as you can see, I got him because he has 91 speed. 91 speed is, again, really bad for bump and run. Very mediocre / average for zone or boundary. For 91 speed, generational for field corners. I'll show you why in a bit. Then we'll go over to their coverage stats. And just like boundary corners, you're looking for high 70s. Honestly, you shouldn't be looking for field corners in general. Just don't recruit them. But if for some reason there's, you have to recruit the field corner or what have you, I will give you the best stats to look for. But generally, they're so bad, it's like just spare yourself the headache and just don't recruit them. Just like the boundary corners, high 70s, low 80s for man and zone. That's kind of what you're looking for, or at least mid 70s. Very rarely will you find a guy as good as this because he's a 5-star, right? To be fair, 5 stars, you do have a higher increased stat average than 4 stars and 3 stars. So for you and most of the ones you're going to be finding, high to mid 70s. If you do see a 5-star spawn, high 70s, low 80s, something around there. But yeah, the general range, high 70s, low 80s, just like boundary corners. Press, mid to low 70s, just like the zone corners and just like the other ones. These guys are pretty much a combination of boundary corners, just worse, which is like LOL, just go get the boundary corner. Catching, again, around that 70 range, other stuff around that 70 range. Even the abilities, not to like drag this video on much longer, but their abilities suck. Again, I've already spoke about wrap up. You should be cut sticking. Even if you do have the ability to unlock wrap up, you shouldn't be doing it. You should just be cut sticking. Robber is a useless ability in this game. Robber used to have your players react better in zone, but now it just helps them move in zone, which, I mean, most of them are slow. So helping them move across the field sounds great, but they're just no. Knockout really good. Blanket coverage really good. Ball hawk really good. These 3 abilities are really good. But just go get a man corner with the same abilities, or a zone corner with the same abilities, or a boundary corner with the same abilities, and they're all better than the garbage that is field corners. So this is the only example I can show you. I would like to show you what an elite or a generational one or a star one looks like. I don't have any on my roster, so I do apologize, but on to the last recruiting section. But Beastly, what do you mean by the average field corner is really flippin' slow? Look at this. This is how I acquire my average, my data points for all sorts of stuff. This is how I acquire these. And I remove most of this from the video, but just to give you guys a small taste of what I'm doing when I recruit these, recruit the players, write them down, get their dev traits, write them down, just jot everything down. Look at all these 85, spoiler alert, 85, 86 speed corners, right? This guy's 85 speed, 85 speed, 85 speed, 85 speed, 85 speed, 86 speed, 86 speed, 86 speed. All of them were 4-star, some were normal, some were impact. Generally speaking, most field corners are 86 or 85 speed. Why? Like why? Again, they don't get cheaper points like everybody else. I don't know who spun that, who made that narrative, but it costs so much more to upgrade them, because just to give you a small understanding, if your man-to-man corner has 93 speed stock, right? 93 stock speed, you don't technically have to upgrade that anymore, because at 93 speed, that's close enough. Like, that's good enough. For like a zone or boundary corner that spawns 91, 92 speed, you do have to upgrade them a little bit, but then you're good enough. For these guys, you have to dump so much resources into them just to get them to the point that boundary, zone, and man corners start off rip. It's just, it's stupid. It's really, really, really stupid. Furthermore, their abilities also suck. So it's not like you get special abilities for having really trash stats. And if you look at their stats, it's okay, but they're so slow. I can't forgive that. Like, even this guy's 87 speed, which is not very fast. He's, it's slow. They're very slow. They have between 85 and 87 speed on average. And by on average, the 87 speed is mostly getting carried by the one guy with 87 speed. Most of them, as you see, are 86, 86, 85, 85. So saying that even that it averages 85 to 87 is pretty not true. It's more like 85, 86 with one guy being 87, but just horrible. But I guess just to give you the blueprint, just in case you come across one that's very rare and if it's good, again, you are looking for their awareness on average is really low. As you guys can see, almost everybody's awareness here is sub 70. So you're looking for high 60s, possibly 70, maybe high 60s, low 70s as like an average point. But that's not very good to begin with. Like that's not. Already failing the awareness check is piss poor. Then they're super slow, 86, 87, 85 speed with a sprinkle of an 87 in there, if you even want to call it a sprinkle. Just really bad. 90 acceleration. Actually, I think they all have 90 or 91. Just slow. High 80s, 88 acceleration or change of direction, 88, 88, 88, 88, 88. Just all 88. This guy's 85, which is his below average, which is kind of funny. And then agility, 90, 90, 89, 89, 90, 88, just high 80s. Just nothing very impressive. There's just no point in ever going after these guys. The only thing I guess I will give them some props is that their zone and man coverage of all of the archetypes is the highest of all of them. Like, there is no cornerback group in the game that's better initial zone and man. They're kind of the better coverage stats of boundary corners, but minus the speed, and like the speed's the most important one. So it's just these guys, have good man and zone, but like who cares if you can't keep up with the receiver or the tight end or the running back you're guarding? Like who cares? Press, again, I don't think any of them even touch. I lied. A few do touch 70 pressing. But most of them is in the 60s, and if it does touch pressing, it's like low 70s, if that. So it's like, yay, you can do better man and zone than average, but like your press isn't even special. And then for catching, it's pretty much the same thing. High 60s for both catching and tackling. These guys pretty much... Normally, I don't cover the shitty ones first, but just to give you an idea how I come up with these numbers, how I come up with these data points, this is exactly what I stare at a whole screen of this. This is literally the only Star Dev 1 I have found of all the recruiting, and I really just don't care enough to keep searching. And as you guys can see, again, he's very similar to the normal dev and the impact devs with high 60s, low 70 awareness. That seems to be their average. Speed of an 88, which is still really slow. but at least it's better than the normal or impact dev ones being 85 and 86. So, you know, high 80s, you're looking for that elite speed, which is just crazy that there are linebackers that generate that are faster than these guys, which is awful. Again, low 90s acceleration seems to be the usual. High 80s for change of direction and agility seems to be the usual. Pretty nothing. The only real difference between these guys and impact dev and normal dev, it looks like, is just speed. The COD, the agility, the awareness, and the acceleration all seems to be about the same. Same thing with the man coverage. Man coverage also seems to be the same, being high 70s / low 80s for all of them. Press, again, low 70s. Literally just like how the stats are homogenized for boundary corners, it genuinely feels like they're also homogenized for field corners. Like, it feels like regardless if they're generation, I mean, that's an exaggeration. Basically, regardless if you're normal dev or elite dev for the boundary and for field, they all are generally the same, which is just weird because I feel like the elite ones should be far elite and the not elite ones should be nowhere close to being that. Like, you guys saw the talent gap between the good ones and the bad ones. For these guys, there's not much of a gap. Like, there's technically a gap, but it's not very big, which is just weird. This guy doesn't even have 60 catching. Like, I don't know. It's just, I hate this archetype. They're the worst in the game, in my opinion. I really hate them. And by no means am I not saying that outliers can't spawn. Yes, you can find someone with probably 93 speed, but generally speaking, most of the time, even the best field corners, generally speaking, are just really average or shitty zone, boundary, or man corner. So at that point, just get the man corner. Just in case you guys really don't believe me that, like, the average speed for one is 85 or 86 speed. This is a whole different corner class. And look at this. 85 speed, 86 speed, 87. He's actually, again, I guess that seems to be what the star ones are, is like 87 plus. So, like, that's the where you would kind of want to jot that note down. But 85, 85, 85, and then boundary. Like, that's like how many field corners were here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were 6 field corners that spawned in this class. 6. Normal, impact, ignore him. Normal. There's 2 stars, actually. And then normal. Like, it's just, God, this archetype is so bad. It's just, I don't like this archetype, as I've made abundantly clear with the yapping, but I don't, EA Sports, I don't understand why you would make a corner archetype be on average slower than linebackers. Like, I can get a linebacker with 85 speed every cycle. It's just, also the fact I can't find a single elite dev one either means that I got absurdly unlucky looking for one, or I just gave up and just said, you know what, they suck, it's not worth my time. So here's 3 examples of star dev field corners. 2 of the 3 have 87 plus speed. 1 is 85 speed. So maybe, I mean, this guy also has 59 catching. That's so bad. This guy's 67 catching. How in the world are you? Is this just an example of just, this is a really good star corner and this is like the bare minimum? They have the same zone. They have the same man. 1 different in press. Almost 10 difference in catching. 3 difference in tackling. Yeah, legitimately, I think this guy is more closer to being an impact dev corner than a star dev corner. And this guy is more closer to being a star corner than you know, the other guy. So again, examples that not every star corner is the same. Not every impact dev corner is the same. Not every elite dev corner is the same. There are gaps. There's normal ones, impact dev, star dev, elite devs, and generational ones. I wish generational players had their own dev trait, but unfortunately, they don't, but I try to make a distinction between being a generational talent versus just being an elite talent versus being a star dev. And yeah, this guy's more closely related to an impact dev corner than an actual star one, and this guy is more closely related to a probably elite dev than star, but there you go. I'm done. This archetype's ass. Please don't ever recruit them. And yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. As always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, give me a follow or sub on Twitch. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you can, please become a member. Members get early access to all of my videos, like the one you're watching right now. whether it's, a few hours early, days early, or weeks early. They get early access to all of my content. So if you can become a member, you get other perks on the channel, and it does support me a ton. As always, though, I will see you when I see you. Deuces.